This is what playing video games looked like in 1958. 60 years ago, video games were a novelty. And even 20 years ago, being good at video games would only win you bragging rights or concerned looks from your parents. Today, it can earn you a scholarship, a sponsorship, and even a career in one of the world's fastest growing sports leagues. Esports are exploding in popularity, growing by 38% every year, and are on track to have more online viewers than the NBA, the NHL, or the MLB in only 2 years. With $750 million invested in 2017 alone, the esports industry is now worth $1.5 billion, and it's expected to reach $2 billion by 2020. But who's all that money going to, and do you have what it takes to be one of them? On October 19, 1972, Stanford University hosted the first gaming tournament at their artificial intelligence lab. The tournament was called the Intergalactic Space War Olympics, and it saw 24 players duking it out to win a year's subscription to Rolling Stone magazine. Nearly 50 years later, the Dota 2 International sees 90 players from the 16 best teams in the world face off for a $25.5 million grand prize. And this time, it's in a stadium full of fans with 66 million more watching at home. But unlike some other sports, the big leagues aren't always where the players making the big money are. They're on platforms like Twitch, the live streaming platform that lets fans watch and interact with their favorite gamers.
The easiest way that I think it is to get your head around how big esports is right now is to kind of look at the numbers that Twitch streamers get. They stream, 5 to 7 days a week. You can have one streamer getting 60 to 100,000 viewers at a time, which is larger than a lot of regional TV stations get now.
One former pro, I'm a Cutie Pie, now reportedly makes $2 million streaming himself online, where companies allegedly pay him up to $7,000 an hour to play their games. That's because for both streamers and pro teams, most of their income comes from sponsorships, which involves promoting and selling everything from esports drinks and keyboards to very expensive gaming chairs. And in esports, those sponsorships work in one of two ways. The first is being a title sponsor who starts, pays for, and owns a team. The other is what's called an agency team. These teams don't have a title sponsor, but allow sponsors to pay for any sort of promotion they want, from putting logos on their jerseys to creating content to promote their product. The smaller percentage of a team's revenue comes from winning tournaments, and in some cases, from selling merch. And esports athletes make anywhere from $80,000 to $300,000 a season to help their team do both of those things. And just like any other sport, these leagues have teams with captains and coaches. Some teams even live together with personal trainers, personal chefs, and practice rooms where they spend 10 or more hours a day perfecting their game. But becoming popular or good enough to make money in esports isn't exactly easy.
To use League of Legends as an example, their season starts third week of January, and the competitive season runs up until the end of November. So that's longer than any other traditional sports league, and they're expected to be on that entire time. It's pretty grueling.
Of course, not everyone's born to be a pro. And sometimes, even practicing for 12 hours a day like the pros do isn't enough to win. That's why there's an emerging industry where you can pay to get personal coaching from some of the best in the game. There's always the option to become a sportscaster or analyst, who earn thousands of dollars a day to work at major tournaments. But one of the best bets is to become a game developer. The makers of pro-level games make an incredible amount of money. Blizzard, the developers of Overwatch and StarCraft, make over $7 billion a year, while the developers of the free game League of Legends bring in $1.6 billion a year on in-game purchases that let players unlock new and custom characters. But whatever your path into esports, getting from the basement to the big stage takes an incredible amount of hard work. And becoming a champion is much, much harder than it was back in '72.
I think the gaming space as a whole is growing, and I think competitive gaming is only going to continue to grow just because it's so accessible to everybody. Anybody that wants to play can really do it. The most popular games in the world right now have very low technology requirements. It's not an easy scene to get into, but if you really like it, a lot of time that's really what it takes.
And while we may have predicted that video games would become this popular, who would have thought there'd be $1 billion to be made in mashing buttons? Each week, New Money looks at a different industry to see how the people in it are making money. So if you liked what you learned, be sure to subscribe below and check out our other videos.